Hello, everyone. This is Inside the Americas. Coming up in today's show. As the impeachment proceedings against U.S. President Donald Trump move toward the Senate, we'll take a look at the role Supreme Court Justice John Roberts could play in the trial. Then, 10 years after a massive earthquake devastated Haiti, we'll see how the island nation is still struggling to recover. And controversy surrounds the Oscars once again. You will meet the Hollywood insiders growing more and more frustrated at the lack of diversity in this year's Academy Award nominees. I'm Jeannie Godula. The impeachment proceedings against U.S. President Donald Trump are shifting into their final phase. Things are now moving to the Senate for a landmark trial. The top judge in that Senate trial is Supreme Court Chief Justice John Roberts, a stipulation required by the U.S. Constitution. The definition of his role, though, in an impeachment trial is still poorly defined, with analysts saying it comes with more risks than responsibilities. Colin Kinneborough takes a look.
It's a process that's been tested only twice in U.S. history. The upper house of the U.S. Congress, the Senate, is becoming a courtroom as it prepares to issue the final verdict on the impeachment of President Donald Trump. That means a rare public appearance for the United States' top judge, John Roberts, Chief Justice of the Supreme Court. Roberts is tasked by the Constitution with presiding over the Senate trial, an especially sensitive role in hyper-partisan times. Legal scholars say the Chief Justice's role in impeachment is poorly defined, despite the intense public scrutiny that comes with it. After asking senators to take an oath of impartiality, Roberts isn't required to do much. His predecessor, William Rehnquist, largely stayed in the background when he presided over the impeachment trial of Bill Clinton. Roberts has good reason to do the same. The Supreme Court already has 3 Trump-related cases on its docket for the year, and the Chief Justice will likely face charges of bias if he plays any decisive role in impeachment.
Chief Justice Rehnquist liked to say that he did very little and he did it very well in the Clinton impeachment trial. I suspect that Chief Justice Roberts is going to be similarly reluctant to get involved, but because there is so much disagreement over this impeachment trial in a way that there wasn't even in the Clinton impeachment trial, he might not be able to avoid getting his robe dirty, as it were.
Even if Roberts does intervene, he still won't have the final say. It ultimately remains up to senators whether to heed his instructions or simply override them.
That comes as the U.S. presidential campaign is kicking into high gear. This week, the 6 Democratic candidates still in the race went head-to-head in their final debate before the Iowa caucus. That crucial first-in-the-nation nominating contest for the Democrats is less than 3 weeks away now. The debate was marked by a heated exchange between Elizabeth Warren and Bernie Sanders on whether or not a woman could actually win the presidency. Tensions were running so high at the end, Warren refused to shake Sanders' hand.
Democratic presidential debate live.
The 2 main progressive candidates for the Democrats, Elizabeth Warren and Bernie Sanders, clashed over whether he told her in 2018 that he believed a woman could not win the White House in 2020.
Well, as a matter of fact, I didn't say it.
Warren was taken aback as he denied ever making that comment and hit back, saying that the women on stage were winners and not losers.
It's incomprehensible.
Can a woman beat Donald Trump? Look at the men on this stage. Collectively, they have lost 10 elections. The only people on this stage who have won every single election that they've been in are the women, Amy and me.
Warren, after the debate, opted not to shake hands with Sanders. Their spat allowed the frontrunner, Joe Biden, to stay above the fray. In the first debate since a U.S. airstrike killed an Iranian military commander, he scored points on foreign policy.
We're now isolated. We're in a situation where our allies in Europe are making a comparison between the United States and Iran, saying both ought to stand down, making a moral equivalence. We have lost our standing in the region.
Senator Warren.
Opinion polls suggest the 4 top contenders are Warren, Biden, Sanders, and trailing behind former Mayor Pete Buttigieg. The debate came just 3 weeks before the Iowa caucus, which will be the real thing in terms of just what American voters are thinking.
In Brazil, several Amazon tribes are meeting this week to plan a resistance movement to the government. Indigenous leaders began the 4-day tribal gathering to figure out how to fight a push from far-right President Jair Bolsonaro to open their reservations for commercial mining and agriculture. Protected tribal lands have seen increasing invasions by illegal loggers and miners since the climate change skeptic became president last year. Deforestation in the Amazon rainforest in northern Brazil soared 85% in 2019. 10 years ago in Haiti, a massive earthquake devastated the country. 220,000 people lost their lives. 1 decade after the disaster, the island nation has still yet to recover, and this despite billions in international aid.
The legacy of the 12th of January 2010 is hard to escape in Haiti. The earthquake brought buildings crashing to the ground, and the island's poverty means many have yet to be repaired. Most symbolically of all, the ornate national palace where Haitian presidents lived has still not been rebuilt.
Haiti has neither a mother nor a father. Because 10 years after the earthquake, the palace should not still be in ruins.
At Croix des Bouquets, on the outskirts of Port-au-Prince, it's not hard to find people whose lives were changed forever by the earthquake. This man lost his leg and has found it difficult to find work ever since. And this woman, Herlande Mitu, says she has lost hope for the future.
There's no market, no water, no hospital. I'd like to go to therapy because the doctor told me that if I do, I could work. But to go there, I need some money.
Billions of dollars in international aid have poured into the poverty-stricken island. But for urban planner Leslie Voltaire, the problem is only partly to do with cash. It's also to do with how badly it's been managed.
We're in the emergency and recovery phase, but we have never entered into the rebuilding, and we have seen a lot of money pouring into Haiti and not being doing the right thing.
Around 500,000 are still living in makeshift camps to this very day. The world's attention shifted many years ago onto other things, but for Haitians, the earthquake and its legacy are still very much part of their everyday reality.
Some movie news now, and the nominations for this year's Oscars came out this week. And once again, the main categories were dominated by mostly male, mostly white nominees. Those nominations coming just after the Golden Globe Awards slammed for their lack of diversity as well. Our Olivia Salazar-Winspear has more now on the many industry insiders who are more and more frustrated at the lack of progress when it comes to equal representation.
It might be Tinseltown's most coveted trinket, but some are starting to ask whether the Oscars are really representative of the very best in cinema. As the Academy of Motion Picture Arts and Sciences announced the shortlist for this year's awards, the absence of women and people of colour among the nominations sparked anger and incomprehension, especially the snub for Jennifer Lopez, who many believed deserved a nod for her role in Hustlers.
The game is rigged, and it does not reward people who play by the rules.
Latinos, being the largest minority group in the country, we cannot be invisible in film. We cannot be erased.
And I do have to just pause for one moment with hashtag Justice for JLo. We don't have to look very far to see the work that remains, to be recognized.
Of the 14 movies named in the Best Picture and Best Director category, there's only one female filmmaker, Greta Gerwig, for Little Women. She was nominated for Best Director in 2018 for her film Lady Bird, but lost out to Guillermo del Toro. The documentaries selected are more balanced in terms of gender. Petra Costa's The Edge of Democracy on the turmoil in Brazilian politics, and Waed El-Khateb's For Sama, a personal take on life in Syria living under siege. Under fire for a lack of diversity in the work they celebrate, the Academy's made a concerted effort to include more women and more minorities among its members. Despite the push, the organisation remains 68% male and 84% white. Yet there's one sign that horizons have broadened somewhat in Los Angeles, with Bong Joon-ho's Parasite in the running for Best Picture. A Korean-language production would typically be included in the Best International Feature, but after winning the Palme d'Or at the Cannes Film Festival and its runaway commercial success, Parasite's prominence at these awards proves that great cinema transcends language and culture.
And as the Oscar nominations were slammed for their lack of diversity, France's most prestigious film festival made a historic first step this week. American director Spike Lee has been named the president of this year's Cannes Film Festival, the first Black person to head up the prestigious jury in the festival's 73-year history. We'll leave you with that. Thanks for watching Inside the Americas. We'll see you again next time for all the news from north to south.
From North to South Africa, from Bamako to Nairobi, from Accra to Mogadishu. Bringing you all the political, economic, cultural and social news from Africa for a better insight into an ever-changing continent.
Across Africa, presented by Georgia Calvin-Smith on France 24 and France24.com.
Always trust what the correspondent tells you. When Emmanuel Soji calls us on a Friday night to say that 2 Frenchmen have been kidnapped in northern Benin, even if authorities here in Paris aren't talking about it, I know it's true because I know how hard she's worked to verify that information. I, too, was once the West Africa correspondent, and you wouldn't believe the amount of information, true or false, that people throw your way that you then have to check and double-check. A more recent example, there were the news agency wires talking about a massacre in Mali. Our correspondent, Christelle Pire, calls up, says, wait before you give the toll. I'm still fact-checking it. We want to go fast, but you know what? We waited.
Liberté, égalité, actualité.